Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to a stats special for Anfield Index. Midfield Maestros is what we'll be looking at in this one, ladies and gents. There's been a deep dive, there's been dashboards galore, there has been plenty researched and plenty to be discussed. I am genuinely looking forward to this one and reviewing what's been an elite midfield this season. Here to join me as ever, the man who's run all the stats, brought it all together, and he's ready to answer all our questions. Bart, is it still glorious where you are right now, I'm guessing?
It's returned to glorious, yes. I have a bit of a suntan for the weekend extravagance, but, there you go.
Yeah, it makes you sick, doesn't it, in all honesty? But let's talk about the midfield. So, people, we're going to get into it. We're going to look at individual players. We're going to talk about combos. We're going to talk the points we get whilst they're on the pitch, the goals scored, the goals conceded. We're going to look at how they mix it for Liverpool. So, first of all, for me, and this is my words, Bart, our best midfielder, our best all-round midfielder, Alexis Mac Allister, who has been sensational this season. He can play in a multitude of positions, but it always seems, no matter how tired he is, no matter what's going on, Arne Slot wants him on the pitch for obvious reasons. Just because, for me, he's the best player in there. So, Bart, I am genuinely fascinated as to what these stats are going to say in this regard. So what do they say around Alexis Mac Allister?
I think it's important. As a completely non-stats thing, I think Mac is probably our most intelligent midfielder. I think you can see that in the way he changes his role depending on the game. But because we're looking at stats for this one, I've done my usual. This is a whole season kind of level of stats, right? So what we are on average and our splits and the rest of it. But we're not really here for that. We're here for looking at what our individual players have done for the whole season. Yeah. So Mac is a line here. Someone needs to ignore because it does weird dividing stuff. We'll just ignore that. But Mac has had in the games he started, all right? So it's important to note a lot of these stats are based on when he started, not a sub-periods where the game state and all the rest of it kind of affects on it. He has had 1,887 touches, 60 of those in the penalty box. He's had 35 shots. He's had 11 shots on target. He's only had one shot in the 6-yard box, 24 in the penalty box. He has had 4 big chances and he's scored 3 goals. Okay, and that's kind of been around 3.45 XG, and he's created in total for the season 7.4 threat when he started. Okay, so he's sort of threat to XG as an individual player is about 46%. That's fine because he's a bit more of a cog than an end result. His overall average for passing is 87. Which is still high, still above where we need it to be. And the rest of it don't have to. A long ball rate of 7.9 for him, so that's sort of in between some of the others. If we look down, so this gives you a little idea about what happens to Liverpool's performance, should we say, when Mac starts, right? So when Mac starts, we win 78% of the time. Okay. Nice. And when he starts, we typically concede, or we would have conceded, all the games he started, we should have conceded something like 26 goals and scored something like 66, which when you look at it in a kind of working out in ratios and what you start with, so Mac, that means it's 0.81 goals conceded a game and 2.6 scored a game. All right. Wow. So, and that's a really good marker if you think about it. He's not the 6 and he's not an attacker. He's sort of that player that sits around. So he prevents. So he's part of a unit when he's on the pitch that we basically concede at less than 0.9 a game, which is very, very good. And we score over 2 a game when he's playing. Okay, so that's sort of Mac. I've got some other bits and bobs for here, each individual player. We've got passing, this is overall for everything. So Matt, where's his average passing position to on ball for the 2 halves? You can see generally in and around that left space. And the second half is typically a little bit further forward. Okay, so this is on average for all the games he started. All right, these are his chains that he's involved in. Typically, he's involved in a lot of very low, which is fine. So pop, 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 move it around. But he's also in quite a lot of the medium level ones. Okay, so what about is it the important stuff? So what does he get into? So you can see here he's very dominant towards the left side half space, which is where he's played a lot of time. And there's a few instances where he's even appearing in zone 14, particularly in that first half. Second half, not so much. But yeah, so that left side of the zone 14, as the eye test would tell you as well, that is generally where he kind of picks the ball up. All right. True. To give you a bit of an idea about his operational zones, I'll give you sort of breakdown there. So when he's played, so Max only played as a midfielder. All right. The others have had other roles, so that's just important to note. He's only played as a CM for us or an 8/6. His dual success for the season is 41%. His aerials is 37, which not a big shock because that's where he is, right? And his average amount of threat he creates for the team is 8.5%, which is good. Considering your top players are about 16, 18%. For a CM in that kind of pocket, that's not a bad little rate. As I said, his pass rate is there and his rest of it. But if we look at, so who does Mac pass to the most?
Yeah.
Not a big shock, I'm hoping for you, is Robertson and Van Dijk. Yeah, he's playing on the left-hand side of the pitch. Those are his two kind of triangles, right?
Yeah.
He hits Robertson at a 97% pass rate and Van Dijk is at 96% pass rate. Okay. I mean, typically, he's got a pretty decent pass rate between all of them, but he hits Cody 100% of the time. That's 65 out of 65 passes he's made to Cody in the games he started. And Costas, he's hit him 100% of the time, 66 passes in the games he started. Okay. Nice. The lowest one on that list, I mean, it's a bit harsh to pick out him, but it's something like Diaz or Dom or Canate, because they're a little bit further out. Diaz is plays a little bit higher than Cody, but there you are. So, and in terms of which passing combination creates the most threat without the season, we are looking at, I think it's 0.9 here, which is Luis Diaz. So although that's actually what I'm saying, Van Dijk a little bit, that's because Van Dijk will then switch it. But in terms of a forward pass, Diaz, although it's a more risky pass, it also is the combination that creates the most threat. All right, so it puts Diaz in a position for him to go and create something. Van Dijk, that'll be because, as I said, that is typically the pass that Van Dijk makes, and then he gets a set for Van Dijk to then do a switch.
Right.
So with the switch is a massive threat creator because you're putting normally Mo in a real danger area, right? So it's a long pass. So that's why that's probably up there without going back and reviewing the video times and times again. Now, Max on off the ball zones. Okay, so on ball, as I said, that left kind of half space in the centre. Off ball goes back in the centre half and the left half space. So that's typically what he does on and off the ball in terms of on the ball. On the ball, we see his passing connections with Diaz being the most threat created, but his most regular one being Robertson and Van Dijk. Just to give you an idea about where his threat areas are. So first off, this, I think, tells you how we are as a side as well. Typically, for a long part of the season, we were quite reserved first half, which is this kind of indicates. He's very concentrated in there in the first half, just here, not doing a lot. Second half, though, look at how he goes about. And that, when I showed you the 14, zone 14 and a half space splits in terms of passing, that's where he goes about and starts moving around and appearing in these areas in the second half, which is really, so he's can often be that player to then go, we need to go with this, boys, and get in the areas and do it. Real Madrid, it was at Newcastle midweek, we need a second goal. I'm going to go and do it. And he did it. That just gives you an impression of where he is all halves of the game. But if we look at off the ball, as I've said, he is very left side dominant. Also, all of them go a bit more. They're a bit deeper off the ball second half than our first half, and he's also a bit more central areas. So this is normally where we'd be stopping the transition. So because we push up a little bit tackling wise, we also then try and stop the transitions on us at that point. XG, now Mac hasn't scored a lot. This one I'll take a bit of time to load because it's quite big. So he hasn't scored a lot. He's only got 3 goals. But these are all his shots for the time. So he's fairly concentrated in central areas. But when he has scored, they're in the box. Yeah, they're all his goals have come from a shot in the box. He's not really, apart from maybe the one last season with Brighton where he hit it from long distance, he's not really known for that. So he's in the box, has scored, and he is a very central shooter. You look at the amount here that are basically a 5-yard box around the penalty spot. That is where Mac likes to take his shots. His periods where he's typically looking to create a lot of threat and a lot of XG. His highest one there is the first 15 minutes, and then he's got a period straight after half time being his second most. So the 2 starts of the halves, Mac is normally on it, trying to get XG, threat, trying to get us going again. If you look at the areas in which he has created XG, so typically a fast break, penalty corner, those kind of things for Mac. All right, so that's where he's created those opportunities. So yeah, I think fair to say Mac is a very important player for us. That he's not quite hybrid, but I think he has a distinct first half, second half profile. Should we say first half? Let's just keep things tight, should we say? And second half, if we need to go and grab the game and go and do it, he will go and do that, create the threat, and hopefully the opportunities for us to go and score from. But he's not necessarily going to score the goals for us. He's only got 3 all season that he started. So yeah.
Interesting. As the saying, he says there, the midfield strategy of 3/8 is so well balanced. The lack of a specialist shows itself at times, but there is quality in every third. And that's probably what we're seeing with Mac. As you said, he is that hybrid almost. He can play all of those areas. But I mean, Bart, when you just look at those stats that I took from you, when Mac starts, we win 76% of our games. So essentially 3/4 of the games, we're winning if Mac Allister's starting. That one as well, when he's on the pitch, we are averaging around, I think he said 2.6 goals scored and only 0.8 XG conceded. Yeah. So that's a marked difference. I mean, it's close to 3 being scored and it's below 1 being conceded. And that area, especially on the left-hand side, like you said, he opens up that Van Dijk switch. He is so important based on those stats, isn't he?
100%. I mean, he's 2.06 in terms of goals created, but yeah, the point is still a massive difference. Yeah, he is really important. It's really important to have an intelligent player there because you've got to link what is. I mean, Cody's coming to his own. It's a little bit different cross position, but Diaz can be a bit street ballery. Doesn't really run the script, that kind of thing. So you've got to have an intelligent player to put the ball where you know Diaz is going to be, right? Yeah. Cody's relatively easy. You know, if he's told to be on Y, he's going to be on Y. Yeah, so therefore you can get to the ball to him. But yeah, and also to make sure that Van Dijk has got the right set for him to play the ball, he's also a really important component because we play so quickly when we do that. It can't be in the wrong place. It's got to be perfect. So yeah, I think he's really intelligent. He's also, I think, beginning of the season, I don't know about you, away at Arsenal was a prime game of this where it just looked like at times the physicality of the Premier League or the speediness was getting to him. Whereas I think this last run of, I would say, 10 games, he hasn't shown at all. He's been setting the tempo and we've been able to, particularly this last block of 5, who effectively won the league, he's been very, very been able to dominate. So I think he's learned a lot, I think, in that first period and gone, right, I can only do A, B, C, D, therefore, but what I will do is I'll do it really smartly. And I think Slot uses him quite well when he pushes him into the 10 and asks Dom or someone else to drop in. So, yeah, I think I still like Mac in the 10 because I think his intelligence is so high that I think in some really, really big games, I think you just need that high level thinking to unlock it. But that's a very small sample size. The rest of the time we can play the 6-8 thing. So, yeah, I think it's fine.
John P, shout out to him. He makes a few points there. We forget he did have that soft tissue injury and he was carrying it in internationals. Argentina were almost making him play with that knockout times as well. And backs up your point as well. Good phrase in there. The number of midfield intelligent enough to do what Maka does for us is so small. I think that's the big thing, is game intelligence. That IQ is just a higher level than the others. And it probably, to finish on Mac, do you think it almost has to be because he doesn't have the physical attributes the others do?
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of it is down to that. I mean, if he had the physical attributes as well as everything else, then blimey, we'd have a player that everybody would be asking for. But no, I think he does, because he has to think that little bit ahead of what the opposition are going to do. So, I don't think he's not slow, by the way, but he's just slow off the march, we say, right? So,
true.
If he had all the physical attributes and didn't have the intelligence, he wouldn't be as used to us. I think you're right. The combination of him being intelligent makes up for him not quite being physically as quick off the mark. He does everything else. He can run for all day, but it's just that quickness in certain mobility bits that he hasn't quite got.
Yeah, and the stats back all of that up. Frightening from Mac Allister. Let's hope he carries on at this level. And this midfielder, Dominik Szoboszlai, completely different, but in so many ways, especially on the physical side, but has an element of Mac Allister in his game. I mean, we've talked about Szoboszlai recently, Bart, in terms of we've almost seen him go up a level in recent games, whatever that may be. He's become, when you just look at the surface level stats as well, we are talking about a player that's got 13 goal contributions. He's starting to find the net with a regular occurrence now as well. I am intrigued to see, does he match or even come close to Mac Allister in terms of what percentage we win, goals scored, goals against? I know it's a different area and a different job he has for the team, but I am intrigued to see the overall effect and how it links.
So just to start at the top again for Dom, he's had 1,593 minutes, all right? He has started fewer games than Mac for us. So he's started 29 games, okay? He's got 100 penalty box touches, which is an indication of he plays further up, right? So his role is to get into the box, as we might say, crash it, third man run, whatever you want to call it. He is meant to join up and be almost a fore in the box. All right, so that's good. His total shots 58, so that is the highest of all the midfielders. All right, and again, he plays in a higher position. You would expect him to. Okay,
great.
Shots on target 20. Yeah, okay, fair enough. That's a decent amount. 6-yard box 4, same as Curtis. To film, we'll come back to him. Plenty of box shots 36. So again, that role showing you where he comes. Because he backs himself outside the box, he also takes more shots than anybody else outside the box. So he's got 22. All right. His XG is the highest at 5.45, which is, again, you'd expect. He's taking more shots.
Yeah.
The quality, and we'll come on to that in a minute, actually. His threat conversion is 90%. That's the best. That's the best part from Curtis. So he creates six threat, and has got just under 6 XG. So that's decent. That's really good. All right, that's a good ratio to have. Pass success 85. Again, all our midfielders have got a very high level of pass ability. There's not a lot to be going wrong with that at all. He's got 104 passes though in his locker, which, considering where he plays, might surprise a few people. Yeah, all right. Remember, passes have got to be over a certain distance for it to be long. So that's quite good. In terms of Dom, so he has got one of the lower win rates. He's got 69% to 70. Let's be kind to him. 70% of the games he started, we should have won. This is the MC doing that, all right? And then we should have drawn just under 5, and the opposition should have won 25. So now, in terms of what he does to concede, we should have conceded with him starting at 26 goals, and we should have scored when he was starting 66, similar to Mac. And if you do the same calculation as we did for Mac, that comes out as 0.89, so basically 0.9 goals against a game. Yeah. And then this is the key difference. So for Mac was 2.06 goals scored.
Yeah.
Dom is 2.26, so nearly 2.3.
Okay.
So he's a big chance more than Mac a game. All right, big chances around 0.2, depending on whose metrics you use. So but that's what he should be doing. All right, and that's not a criticism of Dom. I'm just saying to you, he's further forward to do that for us. Okay.
True.
If you look at his passing, so where does he averagely take the ball on? So here again, a little bit deeper first half on the right-hand side, and the second half he's in the right half space, which is typically where you'll find him interacting with Mo. Trent's playing, Trent will be around here as well. He's involved not a lot in medium chains. He's more in the low, the below 5 or below 10. All right, so he's a little bit part of a quick movement or counter, that kind of thing. All right, but again, he's further up the pitch.
Yeah.
He's typically, we saw Villa away, for example, he was the ball and then he'd play the next player in, right? He's not involved in the big, long, keeping possession stuff because he's there blocking a pass lane for the opposition to get in. Again, because he plays the right side, his involvement is largely over towards this right half space and zone 14, which is where he should be. All right, if he's playing in that, if we play a strict 4-2-3-1, he should be in zone 14, and that is largely where the majority of his progressive and his other passes are. So that's shouldn't be a shock to anyone, but just showing you visually to help people out. In terms of players, we got here for him. Now he shows up 3 times, right? Because he's been a midfielder, attacker, and a forward for us.
Yeah.
Right? So as a midfielder, he's got a pass rate of 86, dual success of 43, aerials 41, not so great, and about 5% of our APV. As an attacker, he's not played many games here, so that would have been 1.2. His dual rate is about 40. Pass rate is still good at 85, and has had 30 penalty box touches as an attacker, which is good. And then the forward, I think it was only like 1 game, but anyway. He created nearly, where's he? Of course, yeah, 0.1, dual rate 50%, and his passing went down a little bit as he was further up pitch. Now, who does he pass to when he is in the ball, when he has got the ball?
On the right.
So Dom's most dominant passing combinations are on the right. His safety one is grab, all right, at 144, so that's 6. He's then got Mo, which is his one up top, but his biggest when he plays to his Trent. And that move, you will see time and time again. Dom wins it, sets it to Trent clips it, and then Mo's in. Right, that is a standard move, or Trent switches it to the left. But it comes normally, so if Dom wins it, he can play it forward, but if he's facing his own goal, he'll find grab for safety, or he'll find Trent to then instigate attack. And that shows you there. 95% pass rate. None of his combinations have got 100. His lowest one is Canate, so that's all the way back. That's back 2 unit lines, if you like. His highest threat is actually, why is that shot? It's Mo. All right, so he's created nearly one whole threat with his passes to Mo, which, again, when you think about it, makes a lot of sense. Dom, heavily in that right half space in zone 14, on the ball, off the ball, almost a complete flip, and he is helping out that right back area, helping out as a right 6 almost, if you like, when he endures in these areas here. So that's quite a distinct difference in terms of what he does on and off the ball. But he'd only be able to do that because of the extreme stamina he's got, right? He wouldn't be able to do, because that's a hell of a shift. If he's making a duel here in our box and then suddenly he's going up this end to get on the ball attacking wise, that's like 5 boxes to the pitch to run through. That's a lot, right? To do game on game. Look at what he does. Threats split by half. Let's go back to Dom. So Dom typically same for both half, pretty much. Yeah, a little bit more dominated in a half space in the first half, but the second half can get a bit wider, but typically he's just doing the same stuff in terms of threat, which is fine. That's what we asked him to do. Off the ball, we scroll down. So Dom is deeper in the second half than he is right in the first half, and a bit more wider as well. So that's, if you remember, one of our tactics for the first 15 games was we would sit off once we got 2 goals in front, and that is largely where that's coming from. So we would go really hard in the first half, get a lead, and as soon as we got the lead, we'd sit the whole lot off. And Dom's just part of that. He shuffles over to the right, so we play almost a flat 3 when we're doing that. Just to get his shots up. Okay, I'll take a bit of time. But his shots, I think, from memory, are fairly, So Dom's a little bit more colourful with his shots, shall we say.
Yeah.
He is, funny enough, he scored his central goal. He's got 5 goals, which are all centrally, right? So he hasn't scored out wide, but he takes a fair amount of shots out wide. His shot quality is 0.1 xG per shot, which is just probably below Premier League average. But it's decent. That shows you where Slot wants you to take shots, which is centrally. And equally, he's only got one. He's got one outside the box, which I can't remember what game that was. If I think about that, and the rest are in the box. He doesn't really get in the 6-yard box to score. I think this one here was Villa, another couple of other ones. But so again, central shooter for Dom. In terms of what period, so 31 to 45, so the period up to half time is Dom's biggest in terms of threat and XG, and his next highest is that second period. So you've got Mac doing the first 15 of the game, Dom doing the last 15 of the first half, and then Dom is sort of chills. Second half isn't really Dom's strong point for creating threat and that, whereas Mac picks it up straight after half time up to the hour. So and in terms of situations, generally fairly well balanced. But I would say Dom is again giving us what we want. It's a bit more attacking threat, but off the ball he gives away probably 0.1 xG away more than Mac, but still under 1 goals conceded per game when he starts.
Yeah. It's a tough one, isn't it? Because they are doing a different job, but you naturally look for traits and where you can compare them. The biggest difference, as you said, the threat ratio, but it is Szoboszlai. It's what you expect. He packs a bigger shot. He's going to score more goals. He's in the team to do that, especially. It's interesting, like you say, the win rate contrast. Mac on about 76, I think. Dom rounded up to 70, I think we said, didn't we? So that's interesting. It's one of those slightly higher the XG, 4 slightly higher the XG, but we're talking 0.9 to 0.8. We're below 1. That's what you're saying. The big thing to say, though, between the two, for me, the thing that stood out, and you tell me whether this seems wrong, Bart, zone 14, he's dangerous there. That's where we want him to be. That's the first thing. He passes to Mo Salah or Trent. He plays it to the conductors. That's his job, isn't it? You keep the ball moving to the stars who will bring the music in that sense. And then tell me if this is wrong. That seems scandalous, as in the areas he covers attacking to then cover almost as a right back / right-sided 6. That just seems obscene, the area of the pitch he's covering especially.
Yeah, it's a big area. It's why, if anyone looks at his off-the-ball metrics for the whole season, that would blow your mind, because he is top of all of it. If people were having a go, I don't think people were having a go. I think they just were, maybe didn't quite see what impact he was having off the ball. But that's what he does. But I think some of that, that's why the 3 work, I think, because it's like, I think he helps. Mac can't do that. Dom can. Right, Dom can't dictate from deep. Mac can, so I think they all kind of work together. And I think someone said in there the fact that they're all 8s, and our midfield strategy around 3 8s effectively is quite balanced because of that. And they basically have a set. So you guys have got to complete 30k between you, and you've got to create this amount of XG and this amount of threat, and you can't give this away. How you split that up with 23 of you, sort of like, I don't care, but that's what you've got to hit. So basically, they take it off, and Dom's like, well, I'll do a bit more of the distance if you boys do a bit more of this. And then Gravy, as we'll see, is probably somewhere in the middle, does a bit of that, a bit of this. So, yeah, I think that's kind of how it is. And it is a good point that John Peach just made about Bradley.
Yeah.
When you don't have Bradley there as well, he doesn't create the amount of threat. So Dom's going to go down a bit on that metric. And equally, Bradley comes inside a lot. I know people say, well, Trent's the inverting, but Trent inverts deep, right? He inverts as a 6.
Right, in the back.
Right?
Yeah.
Whereas what Bradley wants to do, he wants to come inside and drive into zone 14, which is where you're asking Dom to be. So then Dom's out wide. So his recovery run becomes longer because he's still got the same job. Well, so it's, yeah, Bradley does affect it, but then Bradley hasn't started that many games. So it will be, well, I know we've chatted before about who's going, who's staying, but I think Dom's position is one that could tweak the most out of all of the midfield 3, considering who stays, who goes. Because if Trent's not there, then you're going to have to rethink really what you're asking Dom to do a little bit. If Trent stays, then you do the same. If Mo goes, as we've just seen, that's one of our biggest outlets. So it's those two components of Dom's triangle are quite important. And Bradley is a great player, but he's not a Trent. And it's going to be a different relationship. If he's the starting right back, then again, Dom's role is going to change. But yeah, it's still, I mean, I know we've knocked him a bit there. 70% win rate when he starts is still very good. I mean, that's still, yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. And it is, people will say, and I get this, Mac Allister to Szoboszlai, they're both important, and direct comparisons is apples to oranges. But I think you saw there when we broke it down, people, just how important he is to that middle zone 14 and on the right-hand side to linking it all together, and the covering runs are so important. Let's not mix that at all. Now, this one, Bart, Ryan Gravenberch, maybe the most talked about Liverpool midfielder of the season. We know across even AI contributors, there's a big range, let's call it, of opinions on Ryan Gravenberch and how he's been as a 6 this season. A lot of people call him, I think the one thing that's unanimous that no one's going to debate, surprised everyone. No two ways about it, from where he started the season to what he is now. The big questions about Ryan Gravenberch are, I suppose, is he an elite 6, which people will be screaming on both sides, me just saying those words, no two ways about it. And it seemed recently that there's maybe been a dip because this type of minutes is surely just alien to him and this type of campaign. But we have seen key contributions from Grav this season. Only a fool would deny anything else at all. I am intrigued to show, though, his win rates, the stats, because he seems such an important player. And even now, Bart, you've got to admit, people talk about Grav as, when you're resting players this season, it's like, you've got to leave out Virgil, you've got to leave out Salah, and you've got to leave out Grav for this one, because that's the spine. I'm intrigued what the stats are going to say here.
No, I think Grav has surprised everybody. I think my biggest issue with Grav, like I saw him last season, I just saw a player who didn't put effort. And that was the number one thing as a fan for me in the stand. And I saw him three times in it, and he just wasn't. As soon as he lost the ball, he was like, that's not my problem anymore. And I was like, wow, he surely can't last this sort of thing. So to see what he's doing now is like, wow, where's this player come from? This is not the player that was throwing his hand up at Brighton when he lost the ball. He was just like, whoa, this is crazy. So, but he's had 2,303 touches. So non-surprisingly, because he's playing at base and he's played the most games, he started 37 stars. He has the most touches of all the midfield. He has the least penalty box touches because fundamentally that is not his job, right? He's there to mop up, stop counters, be the ball between goalkeeper, centre back, and him, and in a kind of diamond, and then he can go into the wide place. Tight spaces. That's what he does. He's only taken 18 shots. Again, that's kind of what you would expect. I mean, these are kind of fab levels of of stats, really. Shots on target 4, putting box touches, box shots, so 5. Outside the box, he checks the ball. He doesn't, because he doesn't get in there. He's had one big chance, which I can't actually remember when that was, to be honest with you. That's my bad. He's only had 1.14 XG, and therefore his threat conversion is not great, because he's creating a lot of threat, but he's got less than 20. So, but that's your 6, right? It's not, with profile 6, how many times I've seen them, and they are two very different breeds, but fundamentally, not a lot of them give you a lot of goals.
No.
That's just the fact of the matter, is because that's not their role. His pass success, 89%, is one of the highest ones, apart from CJ, who's a bit of a unicorn in that sense. But again, that's because you should be doing the ticking over. You should be doing the kind of, I'm just going to move it here. His long passes is one of the lowest, apart from Curtis, so 4.6 long ball rate. So that's low. Okay. What is it like when he starts? When he starts, Liverpool win in 1,000 games 80%. I mean, we can run out 81% of the time, which is bang on what we are as a season. That isn't a big shock, because he's played the majority of games, right? Yeah. The only ones in here that would tick that over, I think he didn't play Cup Champions League, and he didn't play League Cup and FA Cup, right? So that'd be the only reason. In terms of what we concede, he's 30 goals when he's playing, conceding wise, and we score 78, which, when you put that into numbers, is 0.18 conceded a game and 2.1 scored a game, which is in and around, it's the same defensively as Mac, and just a nudge better attacking wise than Mac. So that's pretty good with Grav. We only draw 2.9% of games with Grav, which is the lowest out of all of them. So he's kind of a win it or not type. But where's he passed from? This won't be a shock to anyone, because he's playing the 6. So largely the same position, both halves. Yeah, he's the base. Yeah, that's what it should be. He is involved in the greatest range of passing changes though, which again, if you think about it, he's the short, sharp stuff, he's the medium level stuff, and then he's the part of the recycling to kill the game at the end. All right, so that is kind of where you want it to be. In terms of his zone 14 passes, he makes a few into the area. These are not high volumes though, and he hasn't got a particular dominance of side. His zone 14 is probably the highest one, but that'll be when we've crunched the play all the way up. He's making a pass into there, normally into Dom's feet, which we can confirm if we go on the next page, which is our passing combinations. So we look at Grav's passing combinations. His highest one is to Trent. Virgil, again, not a big shock. Dom, 135, again, pretty high. The other fullback is pretty high, and Mac is made next to him as a 6. So these are all players that would be in that back quarter of the team, should we say. In terms of forward, he'll go into Diaz, only made 58 passes, Mo 129, which again is what you'd expect, and then Dom when he's playing further forward. All in the 90s, pass rate between them. Highest amount of threat, no shock. Mo Salah, 0.7. He's created by going into him, right? I mean, these are things sometimes you think, it's going to be him, isn't it? Again, not a big shock. This is effectively covering 3x3 grid for his on and off the ball. So it doesn't really go very high. It doesn't go too deep, because he will annoy the centre half when he's that deep. So that's where he is on and off the ball. So quick if I miss it a bit long here, don't have dual rate at 46% for the season, which is probably on the low side. Aerials at 63, again, probably on the low side if we're talking about Elite 6. So one of the reasons Fab got played at centre half, because his aerial rate was very good, right? And his dual rate was supreme in midfield. So that just gives you a little bit of indicator that there are some elements maybe he still needs to pick up on. Pass rate, very, very good. And plenty of block touches is the lowest out of all of them, but that's what you expect. Threat, he doesn't create that much. I just remember off the top of my head the other day. Yeah, they kind of doesn't really change. Deeper areas, okay, central areas, that's where he's looking to go. He's looking to give it to players in the zones to do stuff. Off the ball, yeah, deep and to the right, which is, again, that's one of his roles, right? We normally double bank the right-hand side because opposition want to attack Trent. So we supplement that by either Grav or Dom or both going in there to make sure that doesn't happen. And that's where Grav comes into being. In terms of his shots, top of my head, he's not scored. His shot quality is 0.06, which is very, very low. And his best period for creating threat and XG is 61 to 75, when the game's largely broken. So remember he's done clip balls over the top for Mo and runners. That's kind of where he's moving into, right? When the game is tight, they're all very, very low. So it's more when he's got a bit of a broken game in front of him. But yeah, so I think Grab's had a surprise everybody, myself included. I'm happy to admit that I didn't see this coming at all. And this is one of the reasons why we are marching towards the title, is because he's managed to turn up and beat 6 for us. If he hadn't done this, I don't think it would be where we are, because we didn't sign 6, and Endo is not going to give you this level of output.
No.
Turns to answer your question, is he an elite? I still think there are times his dual rate's not high, it's not consistently in a high level, and his aerials are not particularly high. I don't know, when I say 2 metrics, fair. But I think there's also instances in the last period of games where his turn out of trouble, people have worked that out, so they stopped it, and therefore he couldn't. You know, the one where he drops the shoulder and flips it and he goes the other way. Yeah. So the 5-game block before the previous one, they worked that out. So he then was unable to get the ball forward. So if he's going to develop into a 6 for me, he needs to find other ways to keep being an option and moving around. There's many things he's improved upon, but he still doesn't have that danger sense in terms of, oh, this might happen, so I need to be in this area. He still can be a bit reactive. He has improved massively. And I was just having a look on FBrave to see where he was compared with. We always talk this box here about, is he blocking, is he intercepting, is he tackling? Depends on what he is. Now he's intercepting, which means he is trying to nip it, trying to stop a ball that's already in travelling, going into a player. A block could be more of a block in a passing lane, interception coming to that. So this is probably where he'd get a bit higher. But the aerial is 1, that's 33 percentile. That's, even for a midfielder, that's quite low, if I'm being honest with you. Tackles is a weird measure. It doesn't always measure what you think it is. So I'm not that worried about that. But yeah, I quite like either blocks to go up or clearance. Just one of the other metrics to come a bit more green, if you like. I would suggest he's more of a lead 6. And you can look down here about where he is. So if you compare him, if that's going to work. I think it might do. Right. So if we're comparing the guy we nearly bought. I say though, he's still on the ball. Yeah, fine. Ryan probably outdoes him, but if you look at here, passes attempted, he outdoes it. Shot ground actions, Cartilla does more. Assists, he's got more. Non-penalty goals, blocks. Just said about that. He's higher. Tackles and interceptions combined, he's higher than Rav because Grab's tackles are lower. Percentage of dribblers tackled, so that's a 1v1 situation. Moses is higher, and touches, Moses is higher. So, and I'm not saying Moses is like an elite 6, but he is the 6 we need a ball, right? And if you look at what I was saying to you about these 3 bars here, he's in the high 80s and 90s, right? So I think Grab has made big strides. Whether he is an elite 6, I'm not quite sure he's there yet. Can he get there? I don't know. That's a question for the coaching staff to do what they're seeing every day. I think we've done the show many times, and I still think he could do with having we could do with having an option of another more defensive orientated 6. But the problem with that is they've still got to be able to pass the football. So they've still got to be able to have over 85% pass rate. That's what our midfield is demanding. So, yeah, I think Ryan's gone a long way. We wouldn't be where we are without him stepping up and making that performance. 100% sure of that. It would be useful for him to get some help next season, because I don't think he'd be able to sustain the level of minutes he's going to be doing next year. That's a crazy amount of minutes we've asked him to do this year already. So, he's come a long way. I'm not quite sure he's in the League 6 yet.
It's funny, isn't it? Because people will take this argument different ways. So let's just be clear. A lot of his metrics are brilliant, as we said. The biggest surprise of the season, I know you can't put a stat on that, but how far he's advanced. An 81% win rate, which is in line with the team, shows how important he is. When you look at the goals, similar to Mac, we scored 2.1. I think you said, wasn't it? And we concede 0.8. Very similar to Mac Allister. And a lot of people put him as a pair. Very much, let's say, in terms of passing, the links, the change. He is crucial to this side, so you cannot debate that. What you also can't debate, people, is a 6 that's got a dual rate around 50%. What you also can't debate, people, is a 6 that has an aerials below 65. And as we talk, if we're going to say elite, we can put it on that fab basis, because that's what we had back in the day. And it's just a little bit short. It's fair to say that in that regard. So, yeah, the defensive side probably comes into it. And again, this is hard to say, Barts, isn't it? But as you mentioned recently, he looked tired. And just in a recent run of games, they started to work out what he did, the drop of the shoulder. That combo of being tired, teams working it out, that probably plays into the dip recently, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And that's where I think having another midfielder, which you and I and others have said all season long, we could have done with another starting level midfielder. We've got 4, and we could have done with a 5th, because it just would have meant you could have managed Ryan a bit better. He's played the most minutes, I think, off the top of my head. He started the most games. He's probably the most it's increased the amount of minutes he's played. So as much as we can criticise him for doing this, it's just a fact. He would have been fatigued. He would have been tired, because he's never done this amount of minutes. He hasn't played this level of football for 3 seasons. Right, with us, with Bayern, he didn't come anywhere near that for the last 3. This is his season where he's gone back to his Ajax level, and he's playing a different role. So it's totally understandable. But going forward as a football club, we might want to think about having another option in midfield.
Yeah. And you mentioned those 4 starters. Curtis, CJ, almost a unique profile for me in the sense of everyone knows about his ball retention. He does a job. I almost feel like sometimes people have looked at him, maybe Slot, as the 4th one, although we've seen Slot happy to play 4 midfielders in recent big games, which is a bit of a change from what we saw earlier in the season. The only thing is, sometimes it felt like maybe Curtis was almost, as they call it in baseball, the relief pitcher, be it for Szoboszlai or to change it a bit when Mac Allister a bit tired. I am intrigued to see what tale the stats paint of Curtis Jones's season. And there's been a few injuries in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's played. When I was doing this for you, I was looking at Curtis and I was like, wow, he's only started 20 games.
Yeah.
That's a mark different, and also goes back our point up. Grab started 17 more games in him.
Yeah.
That's a huge amount of minutes difference. We'll talk about CJ. I mean, he's starting here, down here, but he's only started 20 games. If you look at where is he at? So because of that, he's got short of 1,200 touches, right? Which that isn't that far off Dom, to be honest with you, considering they've got quite a big difference in their starts. Penalty box touches, he's got 67, which is very close to Mac. Total shots 31, less than Mac, but again he's played less, so that's actually fairly good. Penalty box shots, so he gets in the box at 22. He's got 3 goals. Okay, he's got 3.83 xG, and he's threat 3.42. So he's actually got the best threat to xG conversion at 112%, and he's played the less games.
Yeah.
So that almost harks back to, you remember when he was an academy kid? He was a 10 or he was wide left, right? So I think when Curtis gets in the right areas, he does just go back to muscle memory and sort of plays. The number, I think was it last season, the West Ham goal he scored, where he just slalomed through. Yeah. And he's seen him do a couple of times this year as well. So I think he has that natural ability built in. It's just the other stuff he spent ages learning under Klopp that's now coming to fruition. Klopp's using to his advantage. Attempted passes at 874, so under the 1,000 mark. But the key thing here is 93% pass success. Jeez. That's Curtis. And people might get annoyed about he doesn't release, doesn't do this. But to have that ability, he doesn't give the ball away. I can't stress you how important that is. And the times he comes on is Bournemouth away, for example. Prime example, the game was, we were 1-0 up. It was a bit rocky. Curtis comes on, keeps the ball for fun. We scored a second and we see the game out. It's just Everton nearly did the same thing, bar a ridiculous referee decision. But do you know what I mean? It's very similar. Giroud comes on, just keep the ball. Just keep the ball for us. And that's what he can do. His long ball rate is one of the lowest out of all the midfielders because he just doesn't, it's just tick, 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 keep the ball. Because he doesn't start that often, he is probably going to have the lowest win rate. It's at around 60, all right? So they go down by kind of 10, if you like, yeah. Ryan's is the highest. Mac's not far off. Dom's then down at around 70, and Curtis is around 60. If we look at what we can see when Curtis is on the pitch, though, that is 18 goals conceded, and we score 42. So if we convert that the same way, he actually doesn't come out. He comes at 0.9 goals conceded when he's on the pitch and 2.1 scored when he's on the pitch, which is very, very similar to a bit of Grav and a bit of Dom. Right? So it's sort of, and that probably is him. He's a bit of a hybrid. He can play the Dom's bit and he can play next to Grav or back next to Mac. So that kind of gives you top level stuff. Let's have a look about where he actually plays. So where does he take his passes from? If I can get there. He's at the bottom. Here you go. So very similar box. Same box. Makes most of his passes. All right, that's fine. He's involved, a bit like Grav, involved in nearly everything. Not quite involved in the high, but he's involved in nearly all of the long possession stuff in terms of medium. If we look at his progressive stuff, left half space dominant because that's when he's playing for Dom. He plays that side rather than the right, but he's also happy to be in and around zone 14. And the number of red arrows gives you an indication of how many progressive passes that he makes. Wow. And that's higher than most of the other players. Just to give you an idea about chain length for Curtis. So he is average chain length for Curtis is involved in is in the middle level. So that's not bad. Okay, he's kind of a good profile with the rest. It's just that kind of hybrid kind of player, if that makes sense. If we look at where is he dual rate, again, there's three profiles. So he's got a 50% dual rate. He's got a 45% aerial rate, pass rate 94. But when he goes and plays further up the pitch, his pass rate is still 90. He's got a 60% dual rate when he plays as an attacker, which is incredible. Penalty box, what's he got there? 65, which considering he's not played as many games as the other, is nearly as much as Dom as a midfielder. When he played as a forward, it was barely anything, but he had a 66% dual rate, 100% aerial rate, and an 83% pass rate. So that gives you an idea about who Curtis is. Who does Curtis pass the ball to? Ryan, that's his 6. Yeah. Andy, Robbo on the left, he's captain. And then he is finding Diaz or Mo on fairly balanced occasions, with Mac and Trent being the ones. But again, look at that 100, 95, 99, 98, 98, 98, 100% pass rate. It's just, that's kind of what you want. 0.4 threat between him and Mo. Again, although that's probably one of his lowest passing combinations, he still created 0.4 threat when he passes to Mo. I mean, some of that is going to be Moby and brilliant, but still, that's Curtis is doing it to show that because Curtis is a hybrid, it will look like a bigger area. This is him on the ball, so he does operate generally on the left-hand side. He's off the ball, but it's a bit more down and right. So that's what he's playing at it. So yeah, there are some things to know. Threat, what does he generally do? You get a mixed picture because he's hybrid. But still left-hand dominant. Yeah, second half, particularly when he's sort of 20% in that left half space that area. First half, 20% in the sort of left half space. So yeah, operating in that left half space, pretty much 25%. Sorry. So yeah, very, very left dominant. But again, that's where he's asked to play. Whereas Dom, when he plays over the right side, we look at his off the ball for Curtis. So again, first half, he has a bit of I think he just does a bit following it around a bit. It's just Dom, when he's played up there, he's got a bit right, bit left. Second half, he'll drop in and help Bill out on off the ball down in the right back slot. So, yeah, I think him being a hybrid helps, I think, him with game time, but equally, does it help him with his identity? I'm not sure. He's also very active in the period straight after half time. He says the threat and XG.
Yeah.
You can look at where he takes his shots, mostly central, and 2 in the penalty box. It's the most attacking out of our midfielders, to be honest with you, because I think Mac had one in the penalty box, all the rest haven't. So, yeah, as in the 6-yard box, sorry. Yeah, so I think Curtis is a good player. Does he have his... he doesn't have limitations. Has he been conditioned to play a certain way? Yes. Does he cover 2 roles? Yes, you can see in the vids, he's a bit of that and he's a bit of this. But he does a role for the side. Whether he'll ever become one of the main midfield starters, I don't know. But I think it'd be very interesting to see where the slot cat in future games plays 4 midfielders. Champions League could be some of them games.
It's such an interesting one because you could just pick stats there, and go, only 20 starts, only a win rate of 60% against other ones who've got a 20% higher win rate. So there's that. But then when you put it in the mix, it's almost because of his uniqueness, because of that hybrid element. And like you said, a 93% pass success rate, and pretty much that maintains in all the positions you put him in. That is just outrageous. It really is. The high progressiveness, as you also called out around that, and the duel rate almost when he plays higher up. It just almost, he has to be in the squad and he has to be used at times based on those stats, doesn't he?
Yeah, 100%. I think he's one of those incredibly unlucky. I think you're always lucky if you're a local lad playing for Liverpool, obviously, but he is kind of the 12th man, right? Kind of like, even Klopp's Grace's side had a 12th player that was just not quite good enough to be in the side, would have been one of the midfielders there as well, I imagine. So, yeah, I think he's just unlucky. He'll start some and he's not. And I think he's made more starts this season than the previous season. He's probably got more minutes, slightly some injuries, but it's a good role to have. And he's got his England call-ups now as well. He's starting to get that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. But certainly, I think he's a key member of our squad. If you go back to his FIFA, what's his squad role? I'd say it wasn't quite crucial, but it was important because he plays in a lot of the games.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I think it's also fair to say he is one of the 4 key midfielders in a team that is 13 points clear at the top of the Premier League, tops the Champions League group table, and who knows what they could end up with. So, yeah, we don't need to sort of bring that down at all. And these next 2, this is going to sound harsh, but before people jump on me, these 2 together, let's just be clear. Endo has just over 700 minutes. Harvey Elliott just over 500. So you can't spend as long on them. No 2 ways about it, Bart. It's a tale of, are they important? And Endo seems to be growing in terms of importance and that trust. Harvey, Christ, it's struggling to remember when he got on the pitch. So I definitely don't want you to spend as long on those just for those facts, people alone. But I am intrigued, like, in terms of, is there a way to quantify their importance?
I think they're two very different cases, okay? But I do think their limitation is very similar.
Yeah.
Like, Endo's mobility, I think, is one of the major reasons why he is not more of a rotation option for Slot.
Yeah.
And also, I like Endo, right? But if we were doing TMM and I was saying to you, should we sign a player like this? You'd be telling me I'm nuts. Like, literally, right? Because off the ball, fine, it's great, 85 tackles, but that's not necessarily a good thing for our six. Remember, our six should be blocking or intercepting, not making a tackle. Yeah. Interception's good, blocks are a little bit lower down. Clearance is fine, aerials is very good actually, 68 for someone of his height, we know that. But between the boxes, he's not going to make take-ons. No, he's not going to do that. Carries, he's not going to carry the ball. Progressive passes, he's at 61st percentile. He's a 6. He's got a load of pitch time, Matt. He's not doing that. Pass completion, fine. That's kind of what you'd expect your 6 to do. Keep it ticking over, keep it moving. Pass completion, 89, but it's only 69%, right? 69 passes. So, yeah, but in the box, even Grab's got better stats than that in the box, and he doesn't get in there. So, that's just my thing. And if you compare him with Gravenberch, and Grab has come on, he's developed into a 6, but Endo is naturally a 6 or 7.5.
Yeah.
You can see here that it's just, he's limited in his game. Yeah, the only bits that Endo beats Grab are touches, passes attempted, and funnily enough, shot correct actually, which is a bit bizarre, but and clearances. So, yeah, I think, but the thing I would say about Endo, and I think Slot has learned this, and I wish he'd learned it earlier. When he's coming on now for the last 10, 15 minutes of a game, we haven't conceded.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said. Coming on, he might not be play the best football, but if he stops the opposition stone dead, doing anything they want to do, we can see the game out. Sign me up. Because if he'd done it at Everton, we'd have won the game. If he'd done it at Newcastle, we'd have won the game. So I'm just saying to you, there's moments that I think Slot has now realised this is the man I need to chuck on to just stop dead a game. Yeah, because he'll stop the opposition. He might not help us build. He might not help us do all the stuff that our other midfield 4 do, but he does have a bit of a knack of just getting in the way or drawing a foul, as your D as a 6 would do. The Diddy Haman, the Fab fall over under pressure to get a free kick when you're in trouble. Endo's got that down to a key. None of our other midfield stars have got that, right? So he does have his plus points, but he is a very limited player. So I hate to be negative on him because I think he has a useful role for us to play now, to see games out, right? 2-0, bring him on, shut the game down, give Graham a rest, job done. Sign me up for the rest of the season. I think that's absolutely fine. Your other lad, though, Harvey. So Harvey hasn't played for a while. I think for a very similar reason, I would say. I think it's because of his mobility. His physicality and his ability. So the role he would be competing with is Mo Salah and Dom. One of them is on demigod level with this season. So the chances of him not playing that position are extremely low. And when he has played wide right or anywhere near that area, he hasn't quite, like the cups and the rest of it, it hasn't really worked for him, if I'm being kind to him. And he just can't do the work that Dom does. And he's not CJ. So CJ is the other alternative to Dom. He's not either of those. So he can't do that. So if you look at where he is here, if we compare him to, I can bring that up. I've got Dom in here. Might not have a minute. yeah, it's not. I've got Curtis up there. So Harvey's slightly better on the shot creating actions, but Curtis will do better in terms of dribbles, aerials, take-ons, pass completion, which is not a shock. So Harvey, yes, he's brilliant in that box area, right? Now, these are really good stats for a midfielder. Even for a winger, a little bit less so, but for a midfielder, if you play him in that kind of 10 role, which Dominik playing in, these are really good. Between the box, penalty box touches, progressive passes received, carries, passes, yeah, fine, all good. Pass completion, that's low for us, low, 48th percentile, all right? Remember, ours are about in the 86, 88. Right? Defensively, though, blocks, okay, that's green. Interceptions, 50th percentile. Aerials, 12th percentile. Clearances, I mean, I know you could argue, but he's not far enough up. But yeah, it's not, even when you make him as a winger, blocking still well with interceptions, but this is him competing with Mo when he's a winger, right? It's just, it's very hard to, I mean, let's compare him. You are comparing with Dom as a midfielder. Yeah, both as midfielders. Dom is better in a lot of elements. He gives us a lot more off ball. Harvey creates more, does more passes. But yeah, personally, I think the writing's on the wall for Harvey. I really do. And I know he's a little. He loves. He's Mr. Liverpool, isn't he? He's a Liverpool fan, living his dream and the rest of it. But I think the physical element of him not being able to do what Dom does, or Mo, which is unfair, but I just think he's under slot. I don't think he's going to find regular minutes for him to carry on his development, you know, because if you look at what he did last season, right? So 23-24, he played 1,300 minutes. Yeah. This season, he's played 83 minutes in the Premier League.
Wow. Yeah.
83. Right. In all competitions, just boost it up just to see, just give that up a chance. I think he has. Still, it's not. It's just, yeah. He's not been given opportunities he was last season, and I think some of that. I think Slot's made his mind up, and you might think that's harsh, but I think Slot has a physical profile that he wants his midfielders to have, and Harvey doesn't fit that. He's on the ball. I think he's exceptional in a lot of elements. Yeah. Similar to the green around there, right? But I just think it's going to come down to, can you actually get into the areas to use your on-ball skills, yeah, in a Slot team, and can you do the off-ball work to match that? And if he's going to compete with Dom, I think the simple answer is no, he's not. And he's not. He's less mobile than Mac, so he's not going to play at the base either, right? So, yeah, overall, unfortunately, I think he is kind of odd man out on this one, and I would be extremely surprised to see him at the club next season.
To bring it together, is it fair to say then, as an assessment from what you've said, that the question mark against both those players is physical in terms of mobility? That is the biggest question mark. The biggest pro for them is what they can do in a game state. Harvey, when you need to create something, you've got the opposition pinned in the box, you say the on the ball, exceptional. Yeah. Endo as the trade, when you just need to shut a game out. In fact, the best player in the squad probably to bring on and just shut a day, kick it, tackle, block, shut the opposition down. Yeah. The ultimate problem being that doesn't carry across a big season to get big minutes, and it's more just that game state for maybe 15, 20 here and there. Is that what it ultimately translates as?
I think it does, and they're both at either end of their career, right? So Endo might actually be happy to just be on the finisher, right? Come on, finish the game. That doesn't bother him, right? Whereas Harvey, he's still a kid. He's got his whole career in front of him, and to be hanging around, he's 21. and to be playing 83 Premier League minutes when he's come off the back of just short 1,500.
Yeah.
That's just not right for him as a player. Yeah, you're right. When he comes off the bench, he can do it. He can do some amazing stuff. But the other issue for him is because we are 13 points ahead, the need for us to go and break glass potentially could reduce. Yeah, because the jeopardy that used to be there in game, we've got to win this game, because people are on attack, just isn't necessarily there. He might find his renaissance comes in Champions League. You never know. And that might be a nice way for him to end the season. But you've got to think of that game state when we are chasing is very rare anyway, because we've spent a large proportion of the season either leading or in garbage time. And that is reducing even more now. But the importance of it is because we've got a 13-point lead. So, yeah, if we carry on our current form in the Premier League, I think Harvey's minutes won't improve that much until it's dead. And then you might see him just playing minutes. The one competition we're still in where he might become useful in that element is Champions League. I think we can name a bigger bench for that. And, he might still find some moments in that. But, yeah, I can't remember the last time he played. I have to be honest with you.
Came on for like a minute against Manchester City. It literally was the last minute as well.
Yeah, that's his last time. Yeah, so the last time he played more than a minute was Ipswich Town at home. He played 23 minutes, which was in January, and we're now in March. So yeah, I think this is a bit of a promising player, should we say, under Slot, under Klopp. I think they threw him differently. Slot, I think he's just a victim of change of manager, change of styles, change of demands. You could actually argue that Klopp's first teams, Harvey wouldn't have got anywhere near anyway. Because the midfield was very similar to what Slot asked his midfield. You know what I mean? Like the way we used to operate, it was Endo, Milner, Fab, Ginny, right? With a bit of Naby in there, but those are the four workhorses. Well, Harvey wouldn't have got in that either. So, yeah.
Yeah, different things. Definitely have the uses, but serious question marks for understandable reasons about the future at the club for these two. And it kind of brings into play the very final question I wanted to ask you, Bart, because, I mean, it's taken rewound to the season. We've looked at this player. Liverpool were all in on Zubimendi, weren't they? And trying to get him and start the six. You know, they've been looking for it. A different type of six than what we'd look for under Jurgen Klopp. But that was the attempt. Now it's an interesting one because Gravenberch come to the party and we've talked about him. He is the surprise for everything. So you just wonder, especially in terms of the fact we play 3-8, the fact we vary it so much, the fact that, you know, different players can play different positions. I know you kind of alluded to it a little bit, so I do wonder maybe some relief for Gravenberch. Is it still an out-and-out six, you think, or is it a hybrid or something else we could be talking about?
The thing at the moment, I mean, the last time we looked at 6-6 in TMN must have been in the summer, right? Must have been in the summer. All the players we've linked at the moment has been a hybrid. With potentially a player that's slightly more defensive-minded than Grav. I know I would be tempted to look at those kind of players. Not quite a more of the same, because I don't think Slot believes in that. I think he might try and get a slightly different slant of this of Grav, but towards the other way. But equally, I mean, you never know. The guy at Brighton,
Labour.
Yeah, it would cost us an arm and a leg, but he is that. He's a lot more defensive than Grav, but he's not a true six, right? So that would give you that. There are players like him around that won't cost you as much as Brian, but you take a risk because you signed him before he's got the big move. I would be tempted. I think if you look at a link and the player's tall, mobile, physically up for it, you look at his dual rate and his aerial rate for a start. And then you look at is his pass completion, because none of our midfielders can't pass the ball, by the way. None of them, they're all above 85%, 86 pretty much, right? So they're your key components. Can they pass the football? Does he win the majority of his duels? Is he aerially strong? Is he quick? Does he do sprints? And is he mobile? And is he tall, right? Tall is a really important factor for slot. If he hits those 6, I think you're in and around what the target we're looking for to play, to sign for Grab. I do think we're looking for another midfielder. Unfortunately, I do think he's linked to Trent or another contract. I think if we've chatted a little bit about it, we will have to tweak the system somewhere.
Yeah.
So if Trent confirms he's definitely going, then I think you're going to need to find a way of getting your midfield to create more threat. And therefore, you might consider moving Mac further forward, and then you get a different type of player to play next to Grab, right?
True.
You get what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Trent, I don't think Trent, but there's other options you can do, or you get another Dom in, but it's just, I think it changes the profile of that player slightly, but I still think they'll be tall, they'll be quick, they'll be mobile, they'll win the duels, and they'll be aerially strong. I think any player we sign in midfield, they have to tick that box. I said the guy Brian is probably been one of the ones to look at. Obviously, Chelsea, they're going to send us Casido, but those kind of profile of players, I think would offer us a good alternative to Grab, while still being able to pass the ball and do the rest of it. So, and you'd also then, if you bought a more defensive minded, you can play the two of them, and Grab could be a bit more of an 8, which he has the attributes to be, right? So you then give Mac a rest as well. So it just gives you better options, I feel, in doing that. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. So I still think we'll sign one. I have moved away from thinking about Zubimendi because I think we've moved past that as a club. I think his age profile has gone as well out the window. Yeah. But yeah, I think it'll be a more defensive minded, but I don't think Slot wants a true 6, if you like. I don't think we're going to sign Fab, for example.
No. Tough, innit? We'll have to see. And we've looked at a few on TMM. We've talked, as you mentioned, about Belaber. We looked at Emery, a young passer. And we've got a few more hybrid midfielders coming up on the docket in the near future. So we'll be able to talk you through that. There we are, ladies and gents. I mean, what a team. What a midfield. That midfield, as we broke down, has been sensational. The difference in terms of Mac Allister's intelligence, Szoboszlai, the areas he covers, Grav, that metronomic element as well, and an 81% win rate. Even CJ, as we said, the win rate's lower, but just the areas and what he offers is so unique and important. Endo and Elliott, especially Endo, they've had their real value this season. Is the long-term future there? Who knows? Recruit, me and Bart's both want one. You'll find out who is our first choice on the next episode of TMM, and we'll see if it's even doable. But there we go. But all it leaves me to say, mate, for the full insight, the full analysis, for stats for the entire campaign, fully briefed, it is massively, massively appreciated from me and all the viewers, pal.
No worries, anytime. That is open.
And ladies and gents, that was a stats special for